What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the PT Coffee Cast, brought to you by The Movement. My name is Dalton, and alongside me today is my beautifully bearded friend, William. William, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good, man. It's looking nice outside. Got my coffee. I'm all set. How about you?
Doing well. I would agree. I have a run on my program today, so I'm excited to get out there. It's a little chilly, but the sun's out, so it's gonna warm my skin, which I'm excited about.
Sick, man. That's awesome to hear. How's your running going?
It's been good. Yeah, I have a marathon coming up May 7th, so we're getting pretty close. So I'm buckling down and hoping to run a sub 3:30 marathon. So
That's
we'll see.
epic.
Yeah, we'll see. Lots of coffee to
Feeling
fuel
like
me.
it's possible?
It's definitely possible. I think it's doable. My training hasn't gone to plan. Let's say that it
Right.
hasn't been linear, and
Right.
maybe that'll be a preview into our conversation today. But it hasn't been necessarily linear. But I'm feeling good with like this last little bit that I have left. So I think I can do it. Actually,
Sweet.
I will do it.
Cheers to that, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. What you guys should also consider doing is the mentorship. And we still have some spots available in the mentorship. Probably this episode will be the last one, really, that goes out. That will preview this first cohort. So if you guys are interested, there's applications open. You can do that through the link in our bio on Instagram or through the show notes. The cohort's starting to fill up, which I'm super pumped about. The conversations that I'm having with the people that are potential mentees in the first cohort has been hype. Like, it's just pumped me up. Even people that end up not doing it right now, it's been like such good conversation. Like, it just makes me excited to get through the first cohort, expose people to like some of the things that we're going to be talking about. I think there's going to be a ton of value, and I'm already learning a ton, so I'm excited to learn a bunch from everyone too.
Yeah, the people that we've interviewed so far to come on, I think are going to stimulate some really good insights.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Outside of that, guys, make sure you subscribe to the Instagram account at PT Coffeecast. We post a bunch of clips there, content, etc. If you guys aren't subscribed to the podcast, make sure you do that on your podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any of our episodes. And then we do have our videos going up on YouTube, the Movement YouTube account, so you can head over there, subscribe. We'll put out shorts there. We've been putting out the full-length episode, so check that out. And yeah, I think that's all the house cleaning we have before we dive into this episode.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into the good stuff. Yeah, so for today, we're going to be talking a bit about a client scenario that Will had. A little bit of a different conversation maybe than normal with the client, but I think a valuable one around just meeting the client where they at or getting alongside them as clinicians. And then I think it kind of circles back around to what we were trying to get across in the rant episode about the one where I ranted and kind of talking about the value of physio and the skill and the things that we can do and should be marketing per se to the public as how we can help people. I think this kind of ties into a little bit of that. So I'll have you lay the groundwork for the scenario, and then we can kind of riff off of that.
All right, I'm ready to lay this groundwork.
Lay it down.
I think, like, before we go into it, like, whenever we do these kind of scenarios and stuff, like, we're never saying, hey, the way we handled it is the way, and this is the perfect right answer. It's more exploratory, more like, hey, this is sort of the thought process that went into it, right? And hopefully people can learn from that and think about, like, maybe how I would have handled it, right? But that aside, okay, so basically I had a client. I've been working with him for a little while. We've been working on strengthening. That's been like a huge aspect of the program. And he's been doing pretty good, ups and downs, like normal, but came into a session and started pretty much right from the get-go. Like, hey, I'm not going to lie, I'm not motivated at all to do this strength program right now. I know it's important. I know I want to do it, but right now I'm not motivated and I don't know why.
Yeah.
So that's how it all started.
Those are always the best when someone comes in with that. And I'm sure you had this plan laid out for what you guys were going to do in the session, all the things you're going to work on. You've probably thought about where these sessions are going to go over the next couple weeks, months, whatever. And then someone comes in there, they drop that on you, and you're like, oh, okay, this is heading in a different direction.
Yeah, so classic. You're like, oh, all right. And then your mind's like racing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But I think what we'll find from what you did, that there's a ton of value in that conversation. And I think people who work with us are looking for someone to help them through those things. And we can offer, I think, good insights and guidance in those realms for people in their injuries, in their health.
Totally. And just the way like he phrased the question, he doesn't really know where this is going to go, right? But the fact that he came, I think says something too, because you're like, oh, well, you're here to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
And also just the inherent uncertainty of like what he's bringing up. Like, I think he knows we're not just going to immediately figure this out. We're going to have to like
work through it.
Yeah, we're going to have to explore a little bit. But yeah, like what I wanted to do was try to sort through what he means by that, so that I can understand just like more about what he's going through, what are his thoughts, and what are we going to try to do from now on.
Yeah, so take me through what happened after he brought that up. Where did that conversation go? How did you maybe intentionally lay things out to come to a conclusion, or at least start to come to a conclusion?
So I think first I was like, okay, well, let's work on trying to figure it out. What's going on right now? What's going through your head? Just to try to pull anything out.
Yeah, get some context.
Exactly. And then he started bringing some things up, like it wasn't necessarily the root of the issue or anything, but he started bringing up, hey, one thing is my gym isn't set up right now. I have renovations going on, and so I don't really have access to the kind of weights I want to be using. So that's one thing. Then another thing was I have some other goals I think are really important for me that don't really involve, at least in his mind, like doing this. And it had to do with weight loss, nutrition, and cardio, basically.
Okay. Yeah, so you kind of, how I always view those things is I try to get, like you say, as much information and try to understand their perspective as much as you can. And I always liken it to just pulling on a thread. So you're kind of just pulling on this thread and unraveling this ball of yarn as to, okay, what's going on? So when someone comes and says things like, I'm doing renovations and it's hard for me to access my gym, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, there's probably something else going on here. That is a barrier, but there might be more to it. So you explore it a little bit more and you keep pulling, and then you come to things like, I want to prioritize this. And I think him bringing up that stuff is really good, because I'm assuming then you went into explore, well, do you feel you need to do this right now? Why is that important to you? And then kind of get a little bit more of a sense as to why he thinks those things should be more of a focus. And I have no idea how the conversation went. I'm just assuming that's probably where you went.
Totally. And just like asking more about like pulling out more threads, really. And just I try to preface it with him like, hey, I just am exploring this, like there's no right or wrong here. We're just trying to see what's going on. And that led to more of a conversation about like I was kind of thinking like, is this going to be a situation where we need to maybe adjust the program and make some smaller commitments and I can just help with like accountability more. Do I need to push him? And so we talked about that, and he kind of had the opposite reaction where it was like, I think I need to be internally motivated for things. If you are setting that up for me, I'm not going to do it. Pretty like straight up,
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, I can get that, like there's like, I'm a pretty like internally motivated person, and I'll make the decision for myself. That's just like how I am, so I can totally respect that. And so that then steered me in a different direction.
Yeah, and I appreciate that answer from him, because it's good that he knows that about himself, and that he's willing to express that to you. And I think that's a big key to success in him reaching his end goal with you, right? And I think from your standpoint as a clinician, I think you did a good job of opening the opportunity for him to share that with you, and you trying to get that information to then help make a better decision for him to get to the success he's looking for. Because the opposite can happen, and I would say, and personally, if I was in that situation, I really do try to do the same thing, but I'm biased just the way that I'm built, I think, to like be like, hey, we need to push through this. Like, we need to set something up. We need to hold you accountable. I can help you with that. And I may have pushed that more on the client, which is in this case would have not worked, or would have maybe create some more like barriers or restrictions, or he puts up more of a wall because you're not listening and hearing what he's saying, and you're trying to push this on him, and that can lead to furthering that relationship between that client, which we know is not going to most likely lead to a positive outcome.
Yeah, and I think like maybe I would have approached it differently earlier on in my career, but now I'm starting to really feel comfortable, and this goes back to that rant episode about like viewing our role. It's like the most important thing is the relationship, and I think that's what's most valuable. What we do as a physio is the relationship. You have somebody that you trust that is your coach, right? Someone that can help guide you through the process. There's no time restriction on that. There's no like pace that needs to be done at. You're more of a consultant for that person, for their health and wellness, right? And so I think I'm more okay now with being like, and I tried to be very upfront with the client, like, hey, it's okay if we're not linearly progressing towards a specific goal continuously for 6 months. That's fine. It's okay. Like, I've tried to validate that it's fine for him to have a different priority for a period of time.
Right.
And that I was like, I'm actually like, hey, that actually would be good for your health.
Yeah.
For you to do those things. Lean into that. Probably shouldn't stop there though.
Yeah. I think there's more to it than that, because we know, and he would probably agree, that accountability and following through on stuff is probably something that he struggles with. He wouldn't be in that situation if that wasn't the case. So I think, again, being able to identify your role as someone who can help keep him accountable to what he's saying and to the goals that he's identified with you from a rehab and a physical standpoint, there needs to be further follow-up and accountability built into that in a way that's going to keep him on track, right? If you would have went the route of accountability and said, hey, let's commit to doing 2 times a week strength training, this many exercises, he was like, that's not going to work. And so then the next step is, okay, how do we build in that accountability with the goals in mind, with our skill sets as clinicians to be able to push him towards that? And that's where maybe you could share a little bit of what you did.
Yeah, that's where we're like, okay, well, before I might have been like, we'll connect.
Yeah.
and then just kind of left it at that.
Or he'll be like, well, I'll reach out.
Exactly.
The classic.
Whereas,
I do that all the time to people
Yeah.
too. For me personally, with the things that I don't want to be held accountable to, be like, yeah, I'll reach out to you.
Yeah,
AKA, that's not going to happen.
exactly. Where what we kind of established was like, hey, we want to do this. We do want to do this. We just aren't doing it right now. So what we did was, one, I switched our session from an hour to a half hour, right? Just because, we're not using that full hour. So I did that. And then I was like, hey, let's connect in 1 month. Okay, we're setting a date to do that. And then in 2 months, we booked a session. We can change that if we need to, but like it's in there, it's in the schedule, right? So there's a plan for us to follow up, see how has this been going, and then let's get you in. And it's a little bit of like, there's that carrot to chase. There's a little bit of time, like, okay, I've got 2 months to like get after this.
A little pressure, like
Yeah.
a little urgency, which is a good thing.
But I'm still allowing him to focus on what he needs to focus on. So that's how I approached it.
Which from his standpoint was focusing on prioritizing like nutrition and then weight loss, which in the past he had success with doing that by like riding his bike or doing cardio versus more of the rehab strength stuff that you were doing with him, correct?
Exactly. He's
Right.
had success with it before, which is like cool. If you know what you need to do, then awesome. But I think the biggest thing was just like allowing autonomy. That's what I tried to do more.
Yeah.
Allowing autonomy and ensuring we're on the same page while still having some plan for follow-up,
Yeah.
Like we're pressing pause on what we are specifically doing, but he's not pressing pause on having that relationship with me, and he's not pressing pause on like working on his health, right? It's just we're just not seeing each other for sessions right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And I think having that built-in accountability with the follow-up call, just more connecting on, hey, how has this been going, right? And then that can give you a sense for maybe things are going super well and he's ready to come back, or maybe things have been not great and there's more things you could talk about. So it just is just a little check-in, which I think he probably appreciates and will value. And then having that like solid reconnecting point down the line, again, is just accountability, time pressure, urgency. I really do like that. Did you guys discuss what his approach to those other things were going to be? Like how he was going to start implementing the cardio nutrition into his life? Did you discuss any of that?
I would have, but he was so confident that he knows exactly what he needs to do. So I just felt he didn't want it. So if I was like, I could probably explore that, but he doesn't seem into talking about that with me.
Cool. Yeah. I think that's fair. The reason I ask is I think that even just having people verbalize their plan of what they're going to do, even if you're not adding any input or correction, I find is a good thing sometimes to have them verbalize that so they can hear it themselves. And I'm not saying you should have done that, but I'm just throwing it out there for like the listeners. If like the window is there to have that happen, I think it's a good idea to have people summarize a little bit of their plan and their approach so that they can hear it verbally out loud.
Yeah, it's a good call, actually. I think if there is one thing that I could have done, that would have been it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not with any intent of correcting or offering advice or changing it. It's just more of having them lay out. Because what I found for myself personally when I have to do that, deep down inside if you don't actually really have a plan. Like as you're verbalizing it, you're going in circles. You don't really have things laid out. So you in your mind are more like, okay, maybe I need to really think about that. Or you have a plan, you lay it out, and that actually reaffirms that, hey, I do have something on it, and it can actually encourage you is more of, I find the tactical approach with that.
Yeah, 100%. That's good.
the last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up is just how was his reaction to all of that, that conversation, where you guys left off, etc.
Yeah, surprisingly really good. I think that was the coolest part. I think he felt like we're part of a team in service of like the same goal versus like adversarial. And it was like, I think just for him, it seemed like he was happy that we could, even though he doesn't want to continue right now, he didn't want to lose the relationship and the option to like continue working together, And so like, I think, and that was very intentional on my part. I wanted him to realize like I'm on your side. And I really felt that resonated with him at the end. He was actually pretty pumped about the session.
Nice.
Even though it wasn't that, really, we weren't making much progress really in any of the exercise and stuff like that. But it was progress maybe in a different way in service of the long term, I hope. And there was definite energy shift from the beginning of the session to the end in like a positive way, which was cool. Yeah.
I think that's really cool. And I feel a lot of times clients want to have those conversations, and they want to have someone on their team to help them with those decisions, because maybe they don't have anyone. Maybe they feel uncomfortable sharing that with like a significant other or someone close to them for whatever reason. So having that ability to go to someone like you or a physio, healthcare professional, to be able to have those conversations and be comfortable having them, I think is so important to, again, overall health and longevity of the client, which if we can make people healthier, it's going to reduce the amount of chronic pain we see in the world. It's going to make people not hopefully have as much MSK related injuries, all that kind of stuff. And we just know that pushing people's health is, in my opinion, one of the most important things. So I think like having someone to go to is good. And there's this general vibe with the healthcare space that it's almost you versus them. And I hope that that's just shifting. And I think there are some shifts in it, but there's just like this perspective of like you're going into your healthcare professional and it's like you're sitting across the table from them and it's you versus them versus you guys sitting on the same side of the table, laying out the plan, working together on what that is, and then moving it forward together based off of, what is best for you. It's not about like you're going to take this away from them or, you know what I'm trying to say. Right?
Totally. I think part of it has to be with like having, like taking your ego away from the scenario, and like it's actually okay for somebody to not want to continue right now at a certain frequency, right? Like that's not necessarily like a loss, right? If you view your role in the way that we're saying, in like more of a long-term health role, right? And then I think, it's funny, like as you were talking about that, I actually am really intentional with like what you were just saying. Like I never sit across from someone at a table. I'm always on the same side of the bed, and I try to like facilitate, because I think that's so important. If you're taking jabs at each other, almost, it's like this isn't a boxing match. To quote Nick Hanna, it's a tango.
Which happens. Like it happens, and it happens without even really realizing that it's going on. And I think the way you position yourself in the room, how you carry yourself, the body language, how you communicate, how you offer space, how you ask questions, like that all enhances that I'm on the same side of the table as you, and let's move this forward together.
Yeah, this is gonna be a little bit like woo woo. Okay,
I'm here for it.
I think like there's this like idea of like they talk and like the words hit me, like they're hitting you, where I think what we should be trying to aim for is like the words come, they go right past you, and you both look at them on the whiteboard. Right?
Yeah, I like that.
So it's like, hey, this isn't at me, unless they're literally like, hey, you did this.
You suck.
Yeah. Then you're like, oh, well, there's
No.
something to explore there. But like most of the conversations, if it's like, I've been having a flare up, you know, I messed up my knee. It's like, rather than like letting that hit you, let it go right past, right? So you can look at it together.
I love that.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think we got to end it on that. That was good. It's a good way to look at it.
It's a little like metaphorical, you know?
But it's true.
Yeah.
It's very true. And to reiterate, I think that's where the gold is from our value as clinicians. I really do. And viewing yourselves as that is important, and communicating that to the public is important. And it's something that people are looking for because we see it a lot in our space. So I would encourage you as a clinician to continue to think about those things and the value that you provide from that position as a healthcare professional. But that's all we got for today. That was a good conversation. Guys, if you're interested in the mentorship, applications are still open. You can apply in the link in our bio on Instagram or through the show notes of this episode. If you guys aren't subscribed to the PT Coffee Cast on your podcast platform, head over there, do that so you don't miss out on any of our episodes. We are on YouTube, so you can follow the Movement YouTube channel, subscribe there. You can see these full-length videos. We put some shorts out. We're going to try to build that YouTube page up shortly over the next couple months. And then I think that's it. Yeah.
That's it.
As always,
It's a
guys,
wrap.
stay caffeinated. Peace.